Every god of destruction, god of creation, and angel was summoned to an emergency assembly at Grand Zeno's palace. From the moment they entered, something felt off. Even the oldest gods sensed a pressure in the air they could not ignore. Both Zenus looked excited, but beneath their smiles, the atmosphere was cold and unsettling. When all representatives had gathered, the Daishinkan thanked them for coming. Before he could explain anything, 3 almighty presences appeared in the hall.
Zarama, Supreme King of Dragons.
And that's why the decision has already been made.
Rymus, Supreme King of Creation. Zabura, Supreme King of Demons.
At the peak of the rupture, Beerus pushed the confrontation too far, raising his voice before the entire council. With the chamber drowning in noise, Zabura chose to impose order by force. One snap, Beerus's head exploded before everyone. His body stood for a split second, then collapsed. The shock silenced every god of destruction, god of creation, and angel. Rymus condemned Zabura at once, saying he was out of patience as always. The Daishinkan exhaled, visibly disappointed. While tension consumed the hall, Zeno laughed, amused. Zarama then intervened, rewinding Beerus's temporal state and restoring him in a single pulse of power. Beerus returned in silence, breathing hard, shaken, and furious, but unwilling to continue. The message was clear. Supreme authority ruled life and death. With the chamber finally still, the decisive announcement came. Grand Zeno and the Supreme Authorities would begin a new tournament of power with 2 central goals. The first goal was to determine which universe would officially protect the Super Dragon Balls. The second goal was to evaluate the strongest mortals of each universe and decide whether the current multiversal structure was still enough, or whether new universes might one day need to be created so those beings could serve in divine roles. But the Daishinkan imposed one absolute condition. The second goal had to remain secret. No mortal could know they were being judged at that level. If they knew, they would change their decisions, alter their fighting style, and corrupt the true data the authorities needed. Then came the final warning. Defeated universes would not be erased for losing, but any universe that refused to participate would be erased. And any universe whose fighters abandoned the tournament would also be erased. Some gods felt relief. Beerus and Champa did not. They already held the spheres, and now had far more to lose than to gain. The Daishinkan added one final statement. This tournament would have unprecedented rules, to be revealed later, and it would take place in a world built only for this event. An arena designed to withstand power far beyond anything ever seen. Zarama and Rymus would oversee its creation. Silence fell once more. Each universe received 1 day to choose its team with a strict limit of 5 fighters. The assembly was dismissed. With a single gesture, gods and angels vanished from the palace. Only the 5 supreme authorities remained, watching in silence as a new multiversal chapter began. On the planet of destruction, the sky trembled under non-stop shockwaves. Even with the intensity of the fight, the damage stayed contained, as if all 3 Saiyans were still holding part of their power back. It was training, but not light training. It was pride against pride. Saiyan pride. Goku, Vegeta, and Broly fought in base form, perfectly balanced, exchanging high-speed blows without pause. Vegeta landed on Goku. A second later, Broly hit Vegeta. Right after that, Goku struck Broly. Using the opening, Goku fired a Kamehameha at the larger Saiyan. Broly was caught, dragged by the blast, and smashed into a mountain. The explosion lit the horizon. Vegeta used that exact moment to rush Goku with a rapid barrage. Goku was cornered and forced to take multiple hits. Vegeta ended the sequence by planting both hands on Goku's abdomen and releasing point-blank energy, blasting him into the ground. Broly came back immediately and attacked Vegeta head-on. At first, Vegeta held the advantage through technique and combat IQ, but during the exchange, Broly began adapting to Vegeta's rhythm. Little by little, the momentum shifted until Broly was the one applying pressure. Losing ground, Vegeta ascended to Super Saiyan Blue. The shift was immediate. His output stabilized at a higher tier, and control returned to his side. He drove Broly back with heavy, precise strikes. Goku jumped in and also transformed into Super Saiyan Blue. The battle remained 3-way, with momentum changing every few seconds. Sometimes 2 clashed directly while the third entered from a blind angle. It was still training, but now at a clearly more serious level. Under pressure, Broly released a strange energy. His eyes turned yellow, his hair gained a green tint, and his own Super Saiyan alien variant erupted violently. From that point onward, he took the advantage back with far more aggression, landing brutal combinations on both Goku and Vegeta. Refusing to be surpassed, Vegeta advanced to Ultra Ego. For a short stretch, he controlled the battle and forced Broly backward, with increasingly destructive attacks. But as before, Broly evolved mid-fight. His power rose in response to pressure, until he flipped the battle again, and began overwhelming Vegeta. At the peak of that reversal, Broly landed a monstrous strike and slammed the prince into the planet's surface. Seeing the shift, Goku activated Ultra Instinct with a single objective: contain Broly. His auto-dodge became a real obstacle. Unable to land clean hits, Broly pushed his speed and force even higher. Fueled by rage, he leaped again and reached legendary Super Saiyan 2, pressing forward even against Ultra Instinct. At that stage, Broly's pattern was undeniable. His growth seemed limitless, but his control was not. The more pressure he faced, the stronger he became to answer it. And the stronger he became, the harder it became to restrain his own ki. Vegeta returned to the center of the clash even stronger, drawing on Ultra Ego's core nature. The more pressure and damage he receives, the more power he can extract. For a few moments, all three fought at near equal levels. Goku warned that Broly had to maintain control before pushing higher levels. Vegeta reinforced that the purpose of training was to master power, not be consumed by it. Broly admitted he had felt that same loss of control again, and for a moment he feared he would not come back. That was the exact moment Beerus and Whis returned to the planet. Their arrival ended the training immediately, and Whis made one thing clear. There was an urgent matter to discuss with all of them. After a few minutes, Beerus and Whis explained everything to the three Saiyans. Goku reacted first, visibly excited the moment he heard there would be a new tournament. Vegeta responded with caution. Broly, in contrast, was clearly shaken. Vegeta did not reject the idea of facing stronger opponents. In fact, that part appealed to him. But he had not forgotten what happened in the previous Tournament of Power. Even with new rules, he still did not fully trust Zeno and the Grand Priest, and his silence made that distrust obvious. Broly's hesitation came from a different place. It was not fear of battle. His real fear was losing control again. After what had nearly happened during training, entering a tournament at that scale surrounded by elite fighters, without the containment safety of Whis' staff dimension, felt like a risk too high to ignore. Beerus ended the debate before it could grow. Whether they liked it or not, Universe 7 had to participate. If they failed to present the exact required number of fighters, it could be judged as refusal. And refusal meant erasure of their universe. Goku immediately looked for the positive angle. At least this time, one normal defeat would not automatically mean total annihilation, as it had before. Without wasting another second, Beerus asked the central question. Who would be the final 2 fighters to complete Universe 7's roster? Vegeta answered at once. Besides the 3 of them, the 2 strongest mortals outside the planet of destruction were Gohan and Piccolo, and with Frieza gone, no other candidate was remotely close to that level. The moment Frieza's name entered the conversation, Beerus asked if anyone had reliable information on his location. Vegeta replied that Frieza had been missing for years, with no solid trace since his disappearance. Beerus turned to Whis and ordered him to search for Frieza through the staff. Whis observed the staff for a few moments. Then came the unexpected result. He could not locate Frieza anywhere in Universe 7. The revelation hit everyone at once. Vegeta concluded that Frieza was clearly moving behind the scenes and planning something. Broly remained silent, still trying to stabilize his thoughts after nearly losing himself in battle. Beerus crossed his arms, reflected briefly, and made the decision. There was no time to chase Frieza now. The priority was to complete the team. They would go to Earth immediately and bring Gohan and Piccolo. The atmosphere turned heavy at once. Meanwhile, on planet Earth, in an area far from the city, Gohan and Piccolo were training together. Both remained in base form, and every exchange of blows made the ground shake while the sound of impact echoed across the region. Piccolo attacked with precision, blocking and evading with refined technique. Gohan answered with constant force and pressure, forcing his master to keep moving without pause. This was serious training, neither of them was fighting carelessly. In a brief opening, Piccolo landed a clean hit on Gohan and launched him backward. Gohan absorbed the impact, recovered his balance quickly, and returned to his fighting stance. Even at that pace, one thing was clear. Piccolo had no intention of holding back. In his view, Gohan had spent too long away from peak condition because of routine, and recovering that level required intensity from the very beginning. Gohan advanced again, and the 2 traded rapid attacks in sequence. Piccolo still held the technical edge, but the weight of Gohan's strikes pushed him back several meters. Gohan explained that he had finally managed to get a few days off, and this was the right moment to return to real training, especially with the possibility of going back to Beerus' planet alongside Goku and Vegeta. Piccolo did not respond immediately. He stepped back for a moment, observed his student, and resumed combat. The fight remained intense. Piccolo maintained a technical advantage, but every one of Gohan's hits carried real power, demanding more effort from the Namekian than he let show. After another clash, Piccolo knocked Gohan back with a direct strike. This time, Gohan showed no frustration. He only adjusted his footing and sharpened his focus. Moments later, Gohan transformed into Super Saiyan and surged forward again. His movements became faster, and Piccolo began to face sustained pressure through chained blocks. Soon after, Gohan pushed further into Super Saiyan 2. The pressure rose clearly, and Piccolo started taking direct hits more often. As Gohan prepared another charge, Piccolo surprised him. He slipped out of the attack line at the exact instant, let the strike pass, and appeared behind the Saiyan. Then he extended his arms, restrained Gohan, and began to suffocate his rhythm by force. Piccolo taunted him, saying Gohan should have surpassed that phase already. Gohan closed his eyes for a second and decided to stop holding back. His ki exploded, the beast aura wrapped around his body, and the restraint broke instantly. Free, Gohan rushed in at high speed, connected a heavy sequence, and finished by launching Piccolo away. Piccolo rose with a smile, satisfied with the response. Without wasting time, he raised his ki sharply, reached orange form, and the fight restarted on an entirely different power tier. With each collision, new cracks opened in the ground, and the tremors became constant across the area. At first, Piccolo still held the edge through experience, but little by little, Gohan released more power. The beast aura grew denser, now surrounded by lightning, and the momentum fully turned. Gohan began dominating, driving Piccolo back until dropping him with a direct strike into the ground. Piccolo stood again, satisfied, acknowledging Gohan's growth but making it clear he still had more to show. He prepared to release even more energy, possibly entering another transformation, when a column of light descended from the sky Makai. Whis appeared alongside Beerus, Goku, Vegeta, and Broly. Sensing their presence, Gohan and Piccolo immediately canceled their forms and returned to base. Then they approached to understand what was happening. After a few minutes, Beerus and Whis explained the situation. Goku stated directly that both of them needed to join the new tournament team. Piccolo accepted at once, saying he would always fight for Earth and for the universe. Gohan, however, hesitated. He said he was willing to fight, but questioned whether it was truly necessary for him to take one of the 5 spots, since other strong warriors still existed in Universe 7. He mentioned Majin Buu and Frieza as possible options. Beerus answered that Frieza could not be located anywhere in the universe, and that Buu, despite his power, was not strategically reliable. Piccolo added that, at their current level, Gohan was clearly superior to Majin Buu, and also stronger than the last Frieza they had seen. Gohan remained silent for a few moments. In the end, he accepted. With the decision made, Beerus showed visible relief. Universe 7's team was complete, and this time the formation process had been far simpler than in the previous tournament. Goku, already excited again, wanted to know who the chosen fighters from the other universes would be. Meanwhile, in Universe 6, Hit the legendary assassin was tracking a target in silence, reading every movement with absolute focus. In the middle of the hunt, a voice echoed inside his mind. He recognized it instantly, Vados. Without stopping the mission, he complained about the interruption. Vados was direct. A new tournament of power had been called, and he was one of Universe 6's selected fighters. Hit refused immediately. He said he had multiple active contracts and a full schedule. Vados insisted. Beyond saying the universe needed him, she added one decisive point. Champa would pay 10 times more than the total value of all Hit's current contracts combined. Hit stayed silent for a few seconds, then accepted. He would postpone his other commitments for one day. Vados thanked him and told him to meet her as quickly as possible. As soon as the exchange ended, Hit stopped time for an instant and eliminated the target with a single strike. When time resumed, the body dropped to the ground and no one nearby understood what had happened. On planet Sadala, a new scene was unfolding. In the mountains, Kale watched training while seated on a rock. In the sky, Kaba and Caulifla fought in Super Saiyan Blue, moving at extreme speed. Each collision sent shockwaves through the area, cracking the surrounding stone. Their levels were close, but Caulifla fought with greater aggression and kept Kaba under constant pressure. Kaba tried to slow the pace, reminding her it was still training. Caulifla refused to lower the intensity. In her view, 10 years had already passed since the last tournament of power, and Sadala had to be ready for any threat. Kaba understood. He steadied his stance and said he would never let their planet be caught unprepared again. Before the fight could continue, both stopped at once when they sensed familiar presences. Champa and Vados had arrived. Champa looked over the destroyed field, liked what he saw, and made one thing clear. That level of training would be necessary for what was coming. Meanwhile, in Universe 11, Toppo, Dispo, and General Casserole stood on a devastated planet after a mission. The ground was covered with defeated creatures, and remnants of dark energy still drifted in the air. Dispo caught his breath and commented that the mission had taken longer than expected, but they had contained the threat in time. Casserole assessed the battlefield and reinforced that this enemy was no ordinary force. Creatures from the Makai world could have destroyed the entire planet, and possibly put the universe itself at risk if they had arrived late. Toppo's expression hardened. For him, missions like that were part of his final preparation before assuming a much greater role. Dispo reminded him that only a few days remained before his promotion, and said it plainly. Soon, Toppo would officially take the position of God of Destruction of Universe 11. Toppo answered that strength alone was not enough. To carry that title, he needed discipline, control, and responsibility. At that moment, a voice reached all three of them. It was Margarita. She explained the summons for the new Tournament of Power, and informed them that 5 Pride Troopers had to be selected immediately. She also made it clear that Toppo and Jiren were indispensable. Toppo agreed, but warned that Jiren had been away for a long time, training alone in total isolation. Margarita replied that she and Vermouth would handle that. Toppo only needed to choose the other 3 names. On a completely isolated world, far from any inhabited zone, Jiren meditated in silence. A red aura surrounded his body, and even with his ki tightly controlled, the entire planet trembled under the pressure of his power. Sensing 2 presences approaching, Jiren opened his eyes. Vermouth and Margarita had arrived. Vermouth greeted Jiren and asked how training was going. Jiren said he was trying to surpass his limits because after the last tournament he had recognized flaws he could no longer ignore. He added that he could not train in ordinary places anymore since his current level was too dangerous for normal environments. Vermouth noticed how much Jiren's power had increased and explain the full situation of the new tournament. Jiren refused at first. He said he had no interest in the Super Dragon Balls, and that the tournament's motive did not seem worthy. Vermouth then mentioned Goku, saying the Saiyan would certainly be there, always chasing stronger battles. Jiren's reaction changed immediately. Vermouth continued, saying many could interpret Jiren's absence as fear or shame because of his previous defeat. In that instant, Jiren's gaze hardened. He declared that he would never avoid a fight for that reason. He accepted participation to preserve his honor, test how far he had evolved, and discover how far Goku had advanced. Vermouth smiled, relieved. In Universe 9, Bergamo, Lavender, and Basil stood before Sidra, but none of the three looked pleased with the news that they would return to the Tournament of Power. Bergamo, still affected by their previous participation, said their level had been far below the other universes. Sidra answered that this time would be different. He revealed that Universe 9 would have 2 surprise participants. Bergamo asked who they were. Sidra then called the new warriors forward. The moment Bergamo saw who was approaching, he froze in complete shock, unable to believe what he was seeing. The one-day deadline Daishinkan had given the universes to prepare finally came to an end. 24 hours later, every selected fighter was ready to depart. On Earth, Goku said goodbye to Chi-Chi and Goten. As always, Chi-Chi complained that Goku was almost never home. He had spent a long time training, and now that he had finally returned, he was already leaving again. Goten, on the other hand, was excited. He thought it was amazing that his father would fight in another Tournament of Power, and he said that one day he wanted to compete in a tournament of that level too. At Capsule Corporation, Vegeta also said goodbye to his family. He told Bulma he would return soon, told Trunks to protect his mother and sister, and said farewell to Bulla, who was already beginning to show her strong and stubborn personality. Gohan also said goodbye to his family. Concerned, Videl asked him to be careful and not push himself beyond what was necessary. Gohan tried to reassure her, explaining that unlike the previous tournament, defeated universes would not face immediate erasure this time, which made the competition less extreme from an emotional standpoint. At the dojo, Pan and Oob traded fast, clean punches in sequence, each impact echoing sharply across the mat. Neither of them gave an inch. They split with a short jump and landed facing each other again, both in guard. Watching them for a few moments, Gohan formed a faint smile, as if trying to preserve that scene in his memory before leaving. After training, while the 2 prodigies of the new generation were still catching their breath, Piccolo arrived at the dojo. The moment she saw him, Pan ran to hug him, and Piccolo returned the gesture with genuine warmth. Pan then asked Piccolo to promise her 2 things for the tournament: to be careful and to protect her father. Piccolo agreed with a brief nod, but demanded a promise in return that she would keep training with dedication and never slack off. Pan accepted immediately, determined. Standing beside Gohan, Piccolo said goodbye to Videl, Pan, and Oob as well, with Oob greeting him respectfully. Once the farewells were complete, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Piccolo gathered shortly after, and Goku used instant transmission to bring all of them to Beerus's planet. On the planet of destruction, Beerus and Whis were already waiting impatiently. Beerus, visibly irritated, complained out loud that if they were late, Grand Zeno could get upset and he did not even want to imagine the consequences. While Beerus argued, Broly said goodbye to Chilai and Limo. Chilai was clearly worried. Broly was peaceful by nature, and the thought of him fighting dangerous warriors from other universes made her deeply uneasy. Limo tried to calm her, saying she should be worried about Broly's opponents, not Broly himself. Broly also reassured both of them. He said he had trained hard, believed he was ready, and trusted that Goku and Vegeta would help him stay in control. Before leaving, he made only one request: that Chilai keep plenty of chocolate ready for when he returned. She promised. At that moment, Shin, the Supreme Kai, arrived on the planet. His face showed clear fatigue. Beerus noticed immediately and asked whether something had gone wrong. Shin said no, but explained that overseeing the full tournament preparation had been exhausting, because too much had happened in too little time. Curious, Beerus asked what the arena would be like and whether Shin already knew the new rules mentioned by the Daishinkan. Shin replied that he could not reveal details, but warned that the rules would be severe and demanding even for warriors at that level. That answer made Beerus even more uneasy. At that instant, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Piccolo arrived on the planet. Beerus complained about the delay, called Broly over, and ordered everyone to depart immediately. Broly stepped forward with Chilai and Limo and asked that both of them be dropped off on Earth so Chilai could arrange more chocolate. Shin said that was no problem, since the stop would take only a few seconds. Before they leave, Broly seems to remember something. He then removes the memento of Ba that he wears on his waist and gives it to Chilai. She is confused, and Broly explains that he doesn't know what the tournament will be like, and that he doesn't want to accidentally lose his friend's memento. He says that Chilai is the only one he trusts to keep something so important safe. Chilai is visibly happy and embarrassed. She accepts, and then leaves for Earth with Shin and Lemo, who drops them off at Capsule Corporation. After leaving Chilai and Lemo on Earth, Shin guided the group to the place created specifically for the new tournament, Planet Arena, in the world of Void. The planet was gigantic. Its scale easily surpassed dozens of ordinary planets. Everyone was impressed. Even Beerus commented that in all his existence he had never seen anything on that scale. Shin explained that the planet had been created under the direct supervision of Zarama and Raimus to endure a level of power never permitted before. Every layer of that world existed to withstand forces far beyond anything seen in previous tournaments. Seeing all of that, Goku became even more excited to fight. Without warning, everyone was teleported to the center of the planet. Goku and the others from his side scanned the crowd carefully. Almost every fighter was someone they recognized from the previous Tournament of Power. But in Universe 9, something was off. There was a participant on their roster who had never been part of that team before. The moment Universe 7 recognized him, all of them reacted at once and shouted the same name. Frieza! Yes, the former Emperor tied to Universe 7 was now standing with Universe 9. Beerus exploded immediately. He demanded to know if this was why Whis had failed to locate Frieza in Universe 7, and what exactly Frieza thought he was doing. Frieza answered with a false smile and no hesitation. He said the answer was obvious. He had decided to change universes. Then he added one more line that froze the room. He had not come alone. As soon as Frieza said that, another figure stepped forward. To everyone's shock, the newcomer belonged to the same race. Frieza introduced him directly as Cooler, his older brother. The reaction spread instantly across the gathering. Frieza had an older brother. Where had he been all this time? How strong was he? Only two figures showed little surprise. Vegeta and Beerus, who apparently already knew that Cooler existed. Universe 2 would pair with with Universe 11, Universe 3 with Universe 10, and so on. The room split in opinion immediately. Some approved, others resisted. Goku clearly loved it and pointed out to Vegeta that this meant Hit and the Universe 6 Saiyans would be allies this time. From a distance, Vegeta exchanged looks with Kaba. The Universe 6 Saiyan smiled. The Universe 7 Prince kept his usual stern expression. Goku looked toward Hit and grinned, but the assassin remained as unreadable as ever. Beerus and Champa also traded glances, then quickly looked away. The Daishinkan then listed the first stage structure in full. 8 universes would compete in Phase 1 through twin pairings, creating 4 teams. Team 1, Universes 2 and 11. Team 2, Universes 3 and 10. Team 3, Universes 4 and 9. Team 4, Universes 6 and 7. As soon as he finished, he raised one hand. Instantly, a Dragon Ball appeared in front of every participant, and all of them took their orbs. He clarified that these were decorative orbs created by him, symbolic artifacts, with no magical power. Their role was purely structural for the competition. Everyone would begin with one orb, then take a second from another participant, and return to the planet's center to qualify. Goku examined his orb and noticed it had 4 stars. He asked Vegeta how many stars his had. Vegeta answered 4 as well. Goku then checked Gohan, Piccolo, and Broly, and all of them also carried 4-star orbs. Goku asked why all their Dragon Balls had the same number. The Daishinkan explained that orb numbering identified team alignment. Members of the same team all carried the same star count. Since Goku belonged to Team 4, alongside Universe 7 and Universe 6 participants, they all had 4-star orbs. Team 1 participants, from Universes 2 and 11, carried 1-star orbs, and the same logic applied to the other teams. Vegeta asked the key tactical question: would orb numbering affect qualification conditions? The Daishinkan praised the question and confirmed that numbering was central to qualification. First, every participant had to possess at least one orb matching their own team number. Second, the other orb could not carry that same team number. In other words, a Team 4 fighter had to qualify with 1 4-star orb and 1 orb from a different team. This rule, he explained, existed to prevent betrayal inside the same team and to prevent opportunistic qualification through allied eliminations alone. Goku admitted the system was starting to feel complicated and said he was getting lost. The Daishinkan replied that it would seem complex at first, but once the stage began, the structure would become clear quickly. Beerus, after watching everyone's reactions, raised another point. He could not see participants from Universes 1, 5, 8, and 12, and asked whether they should not also be present. The Daishinkan called it an excellent question and explained the exception. Because those 4 universes consistently performed above average, their gods had been granted competitive advantages. Universes 1, 5, 8, and 12 were therefore directly qualified and would only enter in the 3rd stage. The impact was immediate. Gods and mortals alike were shocked. If those universes were entering only in Stage 3, then the final phases would be far more absurd than anyone had imagined. Yet in front of Daishinkan, the Zenos, and the Supreme Authorities, no one dared challenge the decision. With all rules clarified, the Daishinkan gave the command to begin. He raised both hands, and in an instant all mortals vanished from the chamber, scattered across different regions of the immense planet arena. High above the arena, inside the observation dome, the Supreme Authorities watched in silence as the mortals were deployed across the test field. The atmosphere remained heavy. Even at a distance, the pressure from the warriors was already distorting the energy flow around the planet. Rimus observed the surface of the newly created world and stated calmly that the structure was stable, for now. If power progression continued at that pace, Stage 3 would demand more than material durability. Zarama kept his eyes on the symbolic orb flows and replied that planetary durability was not the primary variable. The critical variable would be ambition. Once fighters realized the true weight of qualification, alliances would break. Zabura formed a discreet smile while looking into the void between platforms and added that when alliances collapse, the real nature of each warrior emerges. At that point, limits stop being technical and become moral. The Daishinkan stood with his arms crossed in silence for a few seconds. Then he declared that Phase 1 should reveal what power alone cannot show. The 2 Zeno simply smiled at each other, certain that this tournament would be even more fun than the last. The 6 returned their attention to the battlefield. Below them, the first clashes had already begun. A new tournament of power had started, this time with new systems, new traps, and far harsher tests. The question now was no longer who could hit harder, but who could adapt, endure, and qualify under rules built to fracture certainty itself.